Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to New York Metro Weather Severe Weather Briefing number 3 for Hurricane Sandy. A lot has changed over the last 24 hours or so. You're looking at the National Hurricane Center's 11 a.m. advisory from earlier this morning. And you can see that the track has shifted to the south, with the hurricane now expected to turn, according to the National Hurricane Center, make a landfall just near Atlantic City and move into Delaware. But we're not going to focus on the specifics, and we'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of stuff going on here, and we're going to do our best to explain it to you. As the 11 a.m. advisory, Sandy has weakened. Important to look at the south side of Sandy, where a lot of the circulation is exposed. So the winds are only 80 miles an hour sustained right now. They're moving to the north at 6. That's not that important for us. And I'll tell you, a lot of the reason is because when she phases with the central U.S. trough, which we've talked about in our last 2 videos, she's going to gain a lot of strength. And the winds in the system right now are not of the utmost importance. Also, you can see on this cool visible satellite imagery the fog over our area right now, Friday afternoon. So we explained in the last couple of videos. We're not going to get into too much detail on this. If you're just watching one for the first time and you want to know what's going on as we're bringing this storm back to the west, we don't want to get too repetitive. But basically, you can see on the top left image here, of this 4-panel map at 500 millibars in the middle of the atmosphere where a lot of the energy and interactions occur. We have Sandy off the coast of the southeast, and we have the central U.S. trough coming in, sweeping in and phasing with Sandy, bringing her back to the coast. One of the main reasons she's coming back to the coast is because of this block to the north. You can see it's a very anomalous feature. This is the anomalies in the mid-level of the atmosphere, so a departure from normal, and that's a huge ridge over Newfoundland in the North Atlantic. That basically stops Sandy from escaping to the east, so when the phase occurs, she is forced to turn back to the west. Over the last 24 hours, things have gotten pretty complicated for meteorologists, and as we're trying to put together this forecast, we are probably hearing the same stuff over and over. You know, uncertainties still exist. We're not sure what's going on. The track remains uncertain. A lot of stuff like that, and we figured here the best thing for us to do is to show you what we're looking at, what we're dealing with, so you don't think we're just, trying to work around making a prediction that we could be wrong on. So this is the NAM model, the North American Mesoscale model, and it's important to note that it's a mesoscale, so it's very high resolution, and sometimes in situations like this it can struggle, especially in the long range, where it only goes out to 84 hours, and this is an 84-hour forecast. But it does have the surface low in relation to Hurricane Sandy and the phase here just southeast of Montauk Point, Long Island, with very heavy rain over New York City, New Jersey, and much of Pennsylvania and New York State into New England. The GFS model, on the other hand, is farther northeast than that now at the landfall. These 4-panel maps can be a little difficult, but we talked that the top left is a mid-level, top right is a surface pressure, bottom left is a relative humidity, and 700 millibars, which is closer to the surface than 500 millibars, and on the bottom right you see precipitation. So if you want to look at the center here, and it's hard to see, I understand this is a national map, so it's kind of hard to see Long Island, but the GFS makes landfall to the north and east of Long Island, almost in Rhode Island, near Block Island and Montauk. So now we're dealing with, these are 2 American models, and you say, okay, one is southeast of Long Island and one is in Rhode Island. That should make things pretty easy. Just giving you a look at what we're talking about here as far as size of the storm. Something to remember as well. Here's the GFS before it makes landfall. Look at the extent of 55 to 60 knot winds. That's dark red. From the coast of Maine all the way back into the central Atlantic, and as it moves towards the coast, this would engulf Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Long Island coast. I mean, this storm is tremendous. Once it phases with this upper level trough and starts to pick up steam and strengthen rapidly, these wind fields expand. And as a storm moves closer to the coast with these kind of winds, it's going to be bringing a lot of water with it, a storm surge. So depending on where you are in relation to the storm, that's going to have a great effect on what you see, what kind of hazards you see. So we talked about Rhode Island, Long Island, the GFS, and NAM. Here's the European model. The best verifying model as far as verification scores go. That doesn't mean it's always right, but look where it has the surface low. That's all the way down near Virginia, the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia there on that island. The Euro actually makes landfall near Ocean City, Maryland. So we have the European now in Ocean City, Maryland. the GFS making landfall on Rhode Island, the NAM making landfall on eastern Long Island. This is just to give you an idea of what we're looking at as forecasters, and this is part of the problem here. We're not trying to beat around the bush as far as where the landfall spot is going to be. Here are the NCEP ensembles for the hurricane as it moves to the north. And you get an idea here as you watch the cluster that we're going to get a better shot at where the landfall is going to be in about 12 to 24 hours when she starts to get to around the latitude of South and North Carolina. That at that point, we'll know whether she's drifting more north or whether she's turning back to the west. You can see there is a cluster here that agrees with the European landfall down north of Virginia and Maryland to Delaware. There's a cluster that agrees with the other models which bring it into New Jersey, and there's also some isolated models that agree with the NAM and GFS. Important to note as well, remember that the National Hurricane Center track actually brings the hurricane pretty far on the left side of this envelope of solutions. So that's just something to keep in mind. And we saw this yesterday with the sea surface temperatures. Sandy, although the waters are cooler now than they are during the tropical season, and she's moving out of the warm water she's been in, she'll still have the Gulf Stream, which she seems to be wanting to run along, according to these forecast models, to help her maintain strength. So here we are. The facts that we have this afternoon are that the track and landfall area remains uncertain, and the model guidance is still showing possible landfalls from Maryland to Rhode Island. Now, it's worth noting here, the new European model comes out at 2 o'clock, so by the time you see this video, things could have changed, so keep that in mind. We're working on last night's data as far as the Euro, which only runs twice a day. The impacts, we're going to break it down a little bit here as far as what would the impacts be, because this storm is very different. It's almost like a freakish hybrid type storm. Once it phases, it becomes less of a hurricane and more of a hybrid, although it remains warm core in the center. So if the storm tracks, just as an example, if the storm tracks through central New Jersey, to the north of that storm, there's going to be very, very strong east, southeast, and northeasterly winds, which are going to be coming off the Atlantic Ocean, and number one, bringing the high winds, obviously 50, 70 miles an hour, possibly higher. Number two, bringing an incredible storm surge at high tide. Number three, prolific heavy rain. All of this adds up to beach erosion, flooding, coastal flooding, the storm surge coming inland to the north of the system, and obviously power outages would develop. This threat area to the north and north of the system specifically can extend really 200 miles away from the center of the storm. Obviously, if you're 50 to 150 miles away from the center of the storm where it makes landfall, the impacts will be heightened. To the south, and specifically south and west of the storm, so this is an example, if the GFS were to be correct, the storm would track into Rhode Island. We would still have strong winds, but the most important thing is that the winds would be coming more of a northerly direction. So this wouldn't be great for northern Long Island Sound towns. But if you're living in New Jersey along the shore, the storm surge and the coastal flooding would be mitigated a bit by the northerly, northwesterly winds that are coming from the other direction. So although they'd be strong, and you'd probably still have strong gusty winds with the low pressure so close, and the rain would still be tremendous. There would be less of a threat of really this storm coming in and just bringing in a ton of water off the ocean. So I'm trying to help you guys visualize that a little bit. And if the storm tracks well to our south over the European track in Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, that threat area would shift for the strongest southeasterly gales would be from southern New Jersey up the New Jersey coast to southern Long Island. So as you can see, I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainty. We're pretty sure, we're almost 100% sure, I could say, that this storm is going to make landfall in the northeast United States. It's just a matter of where it's going to do it. And as you can see, hopefully, through this description, it's where it does is going to have a huge impact on the forecast. What you can do now that you have this information is just start your early preparations. Trim your overgrown trees, trim your bushes, get rid of the branches that you notice, oh hey, in the last thunderstorm that actually looked like it was going to fall, get rid of it before it falls on your house. Make sure you're stocked with the essentials, batteries, flashlights, candles, etc. If you live near the water and have a boat, take your boat out, secure your docks, take in your chairs, your umbrellas, any type of decorations outside. And with all the, the fall foliage going on, clear your gutters of leaves and other debris that really can make matters worse very quickly. So I understand there's a lot to take in. We're just trying to, get across to you what we're dealing with as well, as we tried our best to continue to get this forecast down to a landfall spot, which we probably will start to do with better accuracy by later tonight. But right now we're really struggling to try and analyze the model, see which one might be having some problems with the handling of the storm system, which one seems more correct, where the ensembles are leaning, where the average mean track goes. There's a whole lot to take in, but as you can see, hopefully what we display to you is that there's still a lot of variance among the models. So stay tuned. You guys know the deal. Facebook, Twitter, email us if you have any questions, and we'll be around to answer. We're expecting a new article to be out this afternoon with all the details we just discussed. And stay tuned for further updates, and make sure to pay attention to your news outlets and your other weather sources that may convey information to you through social media, as well as TV, radio, and all your usual sources about potential evacuations or whatever as we get closer to the storm. So we'll be in touch. Have a great Friday.